Hi, welcome to the video. So today I'm going to talk about having a competitive mindset when you're practicing guitar. So there's both good points and bad points to doing this. So I'll address both those issues to try and hopefully make your practicing a little bit more effective. So basically the only person that matters that you're competing with is yourself. So you want to have that mindset. And how you do that is you want to continually improve your own playing through either learning new things or improving what you already know, how you apply it, your understanding of it. So, for example, if you're playing a scale, improving, you know, the your finger placement, the efficiency of the movement, efficiency of your picking, the consistency, the speed, the relaxation, all these aspects are potential, and you can do it applies to anything you're doing, a song, chords, rhythms. I did a whole video on how to improve and continually improve your playing, so I'll put a link up in the corner for that. But you also, at the same time, guitar is what you are, make of it, and nothing doesn't need to be anything more than that. So if you're only playing for your own enjoyment, you don't have to learn everything that's out there. Learn what you're interested in, learn what you enjoy, but also, of course, if you're learning a certain genre of music, that might have certain prerequisites that you need to learn to be able to play that genre. But if you aren't as good as you can be, and even if you are content with where you're at now, but I would assume you wouldn't be watching this if that's the case. You want to try as much as you can, as many different genres of music, as many different techniques, because it's like if you're a little kid and you're only like hamburgers and hot dogs. That's fine, but it would be a very boring life if you went through your entire life only eating that. You want to try as many things as possible. If you don't like something, you can move on to something else, and that's fine, but at least give it a shot. And don't give up on things because they're hard. A lot of times I've had students that maybe didn't like improvising, for example, when they first started off, but once they start feeling comfortable with it, they loved improvising. So give it a fair shot. Don't give up too easily. But also don't feel like you have to play everything. When I was younger, I tried, anytime I saw anyone do anything that I couldn't do, I wanted to try it. It didn't matter what it was. When I saw Stanley Jordan tapping chords with this hand and playing melodies with this hand, that was something I had to try. When I was at G.I.T and saw Frank Caballi doing sweeping economy picking, I incorporated that in my playing. But at some point, there are things that there's only so much time in the day. You're going to have to decide, what do I really want to focus on and get good at? It's kind of like a kid playing sports. When they are young, you play all different sports, and that's a good thing. But if you get to a professional level, usually then you're only professional level at one thing. You might be really good at some other things, but very rarely is there enough time in the day to be at pro level in more than one sport. And kind of the same thing's true on guitar. If you can get exceptional at one or two things, that's great, and you probably are really good at a bunch of other things too, but you're probably not going to be exceptional at 4 or 5 different things. It just takes too much time. So that's okay. Don't feel like, put your time where you likes are. Now, when looking at other players, like, your favorite guitarists and stuff, that's not who you want to compete with. Again, you want to compete with yourself. Use them as inspiration. Look at them and say, this is what's possible if I keep working. And it is possible. If you are continually improving, eventually you'll get to elite level, as long as you don't at some point give up or stagnate and stop improving. So yeah, don't be intimidated by great players. In fact, don't be intimidated by difficult songs. If you want to play something that's way above your level, it's okay to still try that, because just don't think you're going to necessarily succeed as far as be able to actually play it the way the original was. So what I mean by that is, if you're playing a song that's going at 130 metronome with 16th notes or whatever, and you can only play them at 70 metronome, you're probably going to give up long before you get to that 130 on it, and that's perfectly fine. It's actually probably not an efficient thing to do to stick with that one song that long, because you're going to burn out on it. But if you stick with it long enough to get your playing up to 80, 90 metronome, you made an improvement, and again, you're the only one you're competing with, so that's what matters. Is you made that improvement, then you move on to another song, and you keep making improvements, and maybe 6 months later or a year later, you can come back and you can play that original one. So it's not a failure not to be able to do a super hard song. It probably benefits you more from trying that, as long as you take it at a slow enough speed, break it down, take small enough pieces that you can play that cleanly and as perfectly as you can. Then it doesn't matter. You're still improving. You're learning new chords, new rhythms, new licks, whatever it is in the song. And that's something too. Don't be afraid to fail when you're practicing. Some people, being competitive sometimes can lead to having a problem where you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, or you're bad, or you don't want your ego hurt. You want people to think you're a great player, but the thing is, you are what you are at that point, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about that. If you're an intermediate level player, own that. You're an intermediate level player. It's okay. What you don't want to do is then play all beginner type level songs so you can play them without any mistakes on it. Because you'll never get beyond that intermediate level. You need to challenge yourself with difficulty. If you're not making any mistakes in your practice, you're not challenging yourself enough. If you're challenging yourself, no matter what level you're at, you're going to make mistakes sometimes. When I'm doing some of the licks I write for these videos, I have to do lots of reps not to make mistakes before I can get them up to speed I want to play them at, even though they usually came from improvising. So, practice as perfectly as you can by slowing things down, simplifying things, but don't practice to a level where you never make mistakes, because then you're not really challenging yourself. Another thing to think about is don't limit yourself to when you're playing. So if you're learning a lick, chord progression, exercise, whatever it is, and it's really hard, and you get it down, maybe this was an exercise from like Steve Vai or something, and you think, hey, I got this down, that's great, I'm done, okay. But that's not how people like that got to the level they are. They got to that level by getting that exercise down and then saying, okay, now how can I create a new exercise from this? How can I create a variation from this? How can I make this more difficult? How can I maybe do the same thing but with a different rhythm or in a different key? That's how you get better. So just because, if I teach you something in a video, that's the starting point. It's not the end point. Then take whatever I taught you and make variations on it. Do different things with it. Try and push it faster. Try and make it more complex, or try in keys you're less comfortable with. Always, again, pushing yourself to get better, and don't be content just because you got to a level that maybe a player that you respect is at. Go beyond that. That's how the art of guitar keeps getting better and keeps getting advancing. Friendly competition too is a good thing. So before I was talking about competing with yourself, it's okay to compete with, if you have friends you jam with or they're in a band with, have friendly competition with them. And that doesn't mean you are actually trying to better them or something. What I mean by that is, if you learn something new, be proud of that and show them and say, hey, look, this new thing I learned. And if they learn something new, don't have enough lack of ego that you can say, hey, can you show me that? That was pretty cool. So share information with other players to make both of you better. But as you're doing that, you're trying to make yourself better. So that's where that kind of friendly competition comes from, is that you're getting together with this guy in a couple of days, so you can practice extra ahead of time. Just like before you're playing a gig or something, maybe you're going to practice more than you normally would because you want to do well. So, basically, to recap some of it, don't be afraid to try hard stuff. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure tells you where you need work. Judge your success on your own improvements, and then, just keep working at it, keep practicing. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, any of that stuff. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Thanks.